We bowl off Mello TV Sports with cricket as T20 superstar Chris Gayle is expected to return to the West Indies squad for the first time in 2 years when the side takes on visiting Sri Lanka at the start of March. The selectors have not yet announced their squad for the series, but Gayle has interrupted a stint with Quetta Gladiators to return to the Caribbean, having been given indications that he will feature in the 3-match T20 series against Sri Lanka. If he does play, it will be the first time he has represented the Windies in any format since August 2019 when he played an ODI against India. It will be exactly 2 years to the day since he last played a T20 international against England in March 2019. Meanwhile, a delay in processing his transit visa to the United States has meant that Sri Lanka's new T20 international captain, Dasun Shanaka, was unable to leave for the Caribbean with the remainder of the squad yesterday. Shanaka was named captain yesterday with a view to him leading the side in the T20 World Cup later this year, but it is now possible he will miss part of his first assignment as the permanent leader. He had been standing captain for one previous series. The People's National Party PNP believe that sports can resume in Jamaica with the proper resources. Speaking at a press conference, opposition spokesperson on youth and sports, Senator Gabriella Morris, says that sports has resumed in different parts of the world, including the Caribbean, in a safe space, and that she's confident Jamaica can do the same.
We've seen across the world, we've seen in the Caribbean region where sports have been resumed in a safe fashion, and so we're confident that it can happen here in Jamaica.
Senator Morris also spoke about the welfare of athletes.
Another thing that I would like to underscore is the need for the welfare of athletes to be taken into consideration. For almost 11 months, many of our athletes have been out of work, and it is imperative that the government yield to their plight and also consider putting in place mechanisms to safeguard them as they look to represent Jamaica on the world scale. And so I'm proposing, and I continue to urge the government to consider vaccination protocols for our athletes, to consider support for our athletes. And I'm confident that if this is done, then we'll be able to represent on the world scale.
Sri Lanka great Shaminda Vas yesterday resigned as the national team's fast bowling coach due to a pay dispute with his board barely 3 days after being appointed to the post. Vas resigned just before Sri Lanka's departure for the West Indies tour. It was only last week that Vas was appointed to replace Australian David Sakar following the team's poor show against South Africa and England in the recent times. Vas incidentally was to leave for the West Indies with the team yesterday to play 3 matches, each of the 2 shorter formats and 2 tests. One of the country's finest pacers, Vas has also resigned from his position as the SLC Academy coach. With 355 test wickets and 400 ODI wickets, he is Sri Lanka's most successful pace bowler. Ironically, the team that departed yesterday had not received the country's sports ministry's sanction. The team's departure was dealt another blow when it was announced that fast bowler Lehiru Kumara had returned positive for COVID-19. The first of the 3 T20 internationals is to be played in Antigua on March 3. West Indies star Nicholas Pooran has been drafted by Manchester Originals as they rounded out their squad for the 100. The Originals had 10 slots to fill as teams completed their men's squad and got the top pick, which they used to bring in 25-year-old wicketkeeper Pooran, who has averaged 49.05 in 25 ODIs for the West Indies and 21.23 in 24 T20s. Now the Originals will open the tournament on July 21. The inaugural season was postponed by a year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Finally, in the sports news tonight, the Minnesota Timberwolves have named Chris Finch as their new coach after Ryan Saunders was sacked on Sunday. Saunders was dismissed after their 103-99 defeat against the New York Knicks, the club's 8th loss in 9 games. The team is bottom of the Western Conference, having won only 7 games this season. 51-year-old Finch is a former coach of the Sheffield Sharks in England and led Great Britain's team at the Olympic basketball tournament at London 2012. He was an assistant coach under Nick Nurse at the Toronto Raptors this season. And those are the stories making sports news tonight. We now head back to the news desk with Tamara Mikhail.